Yeah, well, this is super exciting for me because not only is Jake one of my favorite people, Charlie's one of my favorite people on the other side of that same token. So the fact that
Hey,
I get to connect you two is awesome. And my favorite thing about where I've been at and what I've done is like I always have great conversations with both of you. So getting to kind of bridge that conversation and sort of kind of talk about where we're at, what we're doing, and what that looks like is going to be a lot of fun here. And that's what I'm super excited to see, sort of what happens and where we go. Um, but just a quick little backstory is that Jake and I actually met 13 years ago. Was that
Jesus,
13?
13 years ago?
Yeah. So he was actually, this is crazy. He was actually working at the sushi restaurant that I later took over and ran as the culinary director, but we didn't meet there. We met at another sushi restaurant that I was working at just to kind of like pass some time and do some fun shit. And he would only work like 1 day a week, but he worked the entire shift. So he was there like 15 hours a day. And he was the only fucking person that worked there that when we would get together, we would like fuck around and cook shit and just like have fun. And everybody else that worked there was just like come in with their fucking chef coat and be all but and it was so boring and so just it wasn't fun. And Jake made it fun. And Jake made it to be this thing that I really enjoyed. And I hated working Sundays unless I got to work with him. And that's really where we kind of started hanging out, talking, and just kind of it went from there. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but is that the same kind of idea you have of where this started, or am I missing something?
Yeah. I think I was. Yeah, it was Zumi Sushi. Feels crazy to say it was like 13 years ago, but yeah, I guess you're probably right. Um, and I was working. I had like just graduated college, and yeah, I think I was like studying to take the LSAT because I wanted to go to law school, and I was working full time at Virago, and then uh, Sundays I opened and closed at Zumi, and that's where Drew came in, and yeah, I worked there for a while, like part time, just on Sundays. I feel like for like a couple of years, which is kind of weird because it's like weird to have like a job that you only work 1 day a week, but you do it for that long. But I had been there before Drew was there for like quite a few years before that too, kind of working like you know basically full time while I was in college. But yeah, and then we never worked at Virago together, but I quit there and eventually quit Zuni too, and then you took over at Virago, and yeah, it was rad. Cooked a lot of good food.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was like experimenting with making cheese at the time,
Yep.
and yeah, I would like bring in cheese, and Drew would like make like duck breast pastrami, and like was like starting to experiment with like curing meat, and yeah, we like always made like family supper for the crew, and would always just you remember the one time we did the flight of fried pork tenderloin sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
awesome. I
Dude, it was
remember one had like a apple butter type thing on it.
yeah.
I don't remember what the other one was, just like a standard yellow
Standard one. I think
mustard.
we did one with like kimchi and
Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
Yeah, almost like a pork tonkatsu type thing, or what
Yeah.
do you call that?
Yeah, it's
Katsu.
tonkatsu. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tonka. So tonkatsu is with a K-A is the breaded cutlet. K-O kotsu is the soup.
Oh, there you go.
So tonkatsu is the cutlet. Tonkotsu is the soup. Yeah.
Yeah.
But before you just skip right over the I just started making cheese bullshit, I'm going to get on a quick soapbox about Jake. Jake's one of the few people in my life that every fucking thing this guy touches that he wants to do, that he gets passionate about, not only does he do it, but he does it exceptionally well. Like he has no culinary background other than working in bars in Iowa. And then he just all of a sudden, I'm going to roll sushi, then I'm going to go work at the busiest, most prestigious sushi restaurant in all of Nashville and then crush it. And then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna make cheese. And I'm not talking about like ricotta mozzarella. I'm talking about like fully inoculated brie and cheddar, and he's not making like small wheels. I'm talking about like full production size wheels, converting a cooler and just storing it away in his basement and just goes, hey, I don't know, man. I just kind of wanted to make cheese one day. So now I just bought a bunch of cheese shit and I'm making cheese. And it was good. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been like, I'm going to go make something and it's fucking terrible. It's not
It's,
even kind of good.
it's not true.
What? What's not true?
Like everything you make is good.
No, but I've never, maybe in something that I've done before, but I've never like picked up cheese or like vinegar making or brewing beer and just been like, okay, I've got it figured out. I'm going to do it now. And that's one of the things that I love is like you're totally not afraid to just jump head first into whatever it is that you're doing. And it's super refreshing for me as somebody who like overthinks every fucking thing that I'm going to do, that you just sort of naturally fall into these things. And that's why I think I've been like gravitated towards you for so long, is that there's always this been like ease of, why should there be a barrier of entry to anything that I'm curious about? Let's just jump in and do it.
Well,
Is that pretty accurate with how you would assess it, or?
I don't know. I feel like I just get curious about shit. I'm not that good at all of these things I think you think I'm good at, but I just like, I don't know, like, I mean, I love cooking. I love food. I love eating and drinking, and I love music. And I just like always want to know just like the root of all of it. Like I remember when, like, I got into the sushi thing just because it was like it's because initially I worked at, so when I moved to Nashville, I had like a on campus, I went to Belmont and I had this like on campus provided for me job as part of like my student loan package where, and it's not even worth talking about, it's some stupid job. And, and then I was like, I'm not making enough money doing this. And they also don't give me enough hours. So I went looking for like a restaurant job and I ended up getting a job at, the Listening Room Cafe, which was a very short lived thing because it kind of sucked. Well, 100% sucked. I worked in the kitchen there. And then I think I lasted like less than 2 weeks. And it's because I saw an application for this new sushi restaurant that was opening. And I got that job because I had like a little bit of like background working at this like Chinese restaurant. I didn't even cook there, but I just lied and said I did. This Chinese restaurant in Iowa. It wasn't even a Chinese restaurant. It was like a Hy-Vee, which is like a Publix down here. They had like a Chinese counter, and I worked the cash register and cleaned the dishes. But I like used that to get into sushi. And then once I got into it, I was like, oh, I want to learn everything about this. So I was like buying books and like learning about like, you know, like the fundamentals of like washing the rice and how they grow the rice and like just like I wanted to know about like every little thing so that I don't know, you know, it's like same thing with music, cooking. It's like I don't want to just make dinner for, you know, I want to know how to like make every raw ingredient. And I remember one time I made a pizza after I started making cheese. I like made my own dough. I made a fresh tomato sauce from tomatoes I had grown. The mozzarella I made. The
Yo,
the you know, obviously didn't make the olive oil, but what else is on pizza? Oh, like the basil, you know, it's like from my garden. And I was like, this is cool. Like I kind of had a piece in like all of it but the olive oil, you know? And like that was just cool. It's like you kind of, I don't know. I'm like intrigued about like knowing how shit works and like
how'd it turn out? How'd the pizza turn out?
delicious, man. It's really good. I mean, pizza's easy though. I mean, once you figure out how to make mozzarella, it's like can't fuck up good tomatoes and basil and
No, you could fuck it up. I fucked it up many times. I fucked
yeah,
it
and
up
like
many times.
I got into brewing. I got into home brewing just because I'm probably an alcoholic and love drinking beer. But like I don't like I just love beer and I love like all the different types and knowing where they're from and why and what contributes to these things. And I remember I bought this like homebrew kit and I like did my first two like batches where it was I forget what they call it, but it's like you don't make your own wort. It's not
Right.
all grain. It's basically like to equate it to orange juice instead of like fresh squeezing orange juice. It's like you get the concentrate in the can and you mix it up and you boil it with some hops and you bottle it and it tastes just like a Lagunitas IPA or whatever. And that was cool and definitely like was encouraging because my first couple batches were like actually good because I didn't hardly do anything. It seemed like, and but like after that I was like, this is it. Like this isn't that interesting to me. And so then I like invested like 4 times the amount of money in like an all grain system. And I was like mashing my own grains and like started growing hops in my backyard, and not for every beer I made, but like I would make one batch a year that would be, like fresh harvested, wet hopped. And I was like repurposing yeast from other beers and like starting to get into like sours and barrel aged stuff. And like, I just like wanted to know how like every little like element of it worked. And that's fun. Like, now I don't have fucking time for hobbies, unfortunately. And it's like I'm about to order Uber Eats, which Drew, what's your go-to Uber Eats? Because I need to order something.
I have no idea.
Are you both in Nashville?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know
still?
Nashville?
Yeah, okay.
Where are you at,
Oh,
Charlie?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, nice.
I'm originally from Florida, so my heart skipped a beat when you said Publix because
Oh, there you go.
I sure as hell miss my like Publix sub.
Well,
Can I ask you a question?
How do y'all know each other?
Through his wife, through Deandra, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, I went to we've known each other since the 6th grade. So she's like one of like maybe probably less than 5 people now that I've still kept in contact with from all the way back from middle school and high school. And Andrew and I just hit it off in a way that I think makes her jealous sometimes. But yeah, I wanted to ask you something. Do you have a take at all on like you just mentioned like your time that you had for hobbies is kind of diminishing, right? But for people that do have a lot of time and because I know these people and sometimes I am that person, like, oh, I want to learn guitar, or I'm going to Duolingo for the next 2 months and finally learn this language, or I'm going to learn how to cook this thing. And then they just don't because, I don't know, they're playing video games, or they're on TikTok or whatever, but they entertain in their mind similar level of curiosity, but then they don't actually act on it, right? Like, do you have a take on that at all? Or are you just like, I don't know? Or like, I'm just curious your responses to other people that seemingly start to have those same curiosities, but then there's never actually any, action.
I don't know. I just like feel like I get like when I get a bug on something, I just like go for it. And I just go all in. Yeah, it's like, and it's, I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of what my hobbies though are kind of offshoots of like kind of what I do, or at either point and when I got into them, it was kind of like offshoots of like what I was doing for work. Like when I was in college, I was like, you know, trying to get into like music business stuff, and like, so like I've always, I don't anymore, but like growing up, I played in bands and I play guitar and I play music, and so like I'm pursuing this like music business career, and so like music, like playing guitar and all that, it's kind of like tangential to it, and then like in doing that, I just always worked. If I didn't do music, the other thing I would have done was I probably would have just fallen into like the path that Andrew like decided that he actually like wanted to do, which was like go to culinary school and like work in restaurants. I just worked in restaurants like it's like I never aspired to be like a chef or a kitchen manager or nothing. I just was like I need to make some money while I'm in college and post college and pay the bills, and that for whatever reason that's like what I fell into when I was really young. So I had experience, but I always liked cooking, and so then like all the brewing beer and making cheese, and like now I'm kind of into, I wouldn't say I'm like I mean I am a gardener because I have a garden, but like I'm like I wish I had more time for that. Like I'm into that. Like it's all like around food, like, and I love food, and it's because I had all that time when I was actually getting paid to like make food. Paid $11 an hour or whatever the hell that was back then.
Yeah, if we were lucky at that time, yeah, it was
Yeah.
over 10 an hour.
Yeah.
So, Charlie, hearing what Jake's saying about just diving headfirst into these things and like finding this like passion to explore to the depth that he did, and something that's so maybe not foreign from the idea that he's obviously been a fan of food, but like how does that apply to you, like with what you find interesting and what you're looking at, what you're trying to maybe aspire to learn something? Like do you find barriers to entry when there's a product on the other end that's coming out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my favorite thing that Jake said is he was talking, I think it was about cheese, but I don't know if it was cheese, but it was he went and found books, like books, right? Like think about like now, right? Like now it's like I think the instinct would be to go find like a YouTube chef or somebody really famous on Instagram, and I could just like watch, they've broken down what a book, I'd have to go to the library or go find what I'm going to buy or whatever, and then try to figure out the shortest, most efficient way to figure out what they're doing. And now it's like I have like a 90-second video I can pause and visualize, like visually see every step that this expert person is doing. So I have so much respect for. I even thought about this. I hope I'm not going off topic too much, but I think about this a lot of time. Like, if you had to get your, college degree or your master's, if you had to write a dissertation, even back in like the 70s or 80s, right? Like a lot of times, even if you wanted to go to the library and you actually needed a source, sometimes you couldn't even take it out of the library. Like you had to stay in there because you couldn't rent out certain documents or certain studies, and you had to put so much more work into gathering all the data. And now it's just like, God knows AI could probably do like half of the research, if not more, for whatever you were going to do to get a degree now. So I just got stuck on that idea of like how romantic it is that he actually got a book and figured out how to do it. I'm curious, Jake, how much that's changed now for your hobbies, if you dive in or lean into any of the YouTube or any of these people that are creating content that are teaching the same things like gardening or whatever. But to not evade your question completely, I think that I come up with 1,000 things I want to do, and I end up doing like 5 of them. So, but I'm still very proud of myself for like being the kind of person that does the 5 things. I think most people struggle to do like the one thing on their list that year. But I would say for like every 5 things that I say yes to, that I'm highly agentic about, like just fuck it, I'm just going to do it. There's like, there's like 995 dreams or ideas or things that I just kind of like play with in my head, but never actually get started. And I think it's probably interesting why we do or don't do that. And I'm not sure I even have like a strong conviction. Same like what Jake was like, I don't really know. I don't know if I really know what it is that happens where I just finally go like, nah, this thing, I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to figure it out. But I'm glad that I've got that instinct kicks in for the things that I've created.
Yeah, totally.
So with what, to come off what Charlie said a little bit about AI, does that impact what you do in your day-to-day now? Like, are you looking at that going, okay, fuck, this is like something we have to think about, we have to look at, or are you just embracing it going, fuck it, let's see where it goes?
Like, does AI like help me do my job?
Like in general, like, are you looking at it, like, to further Charlie's point of like, you can get online now and look up anything within a second, and there's 50 quote unquote experts doing it, right? There's hundreds of tutorials now, be it YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Does any of that come into like your day to day? Like, I use Chat GPT all of the time for like editing, for anything when I'm like writing a business plan or anything like that. I'll run it through that filter to see if there's a way to kind of optimize whatever it is that I'm putting together. Does that have an impact on you? I mean, I know you're more creative, but
I don't use that at all. I'm sure other people that do what I do do it. I don't know how, and that's one thing I have zero interest in learning how to do. I don't know. Maybe I'm like old fashioned or a dinosaur or something, but I don't even know how to do it. I mean, like, it has a massive impact on the industry. I mean, I'm a producer and I'm a publisher and I'm a label executive, and so like working with songwriters and producers and artists and like creative people, like it's going to have a huge impact on music specifically, which is what I do. But I don't use it to help do my job. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. I think it's weird.
right.
But, I mean, I'm so aware. Like, there's all these like, social media pages where they show like the AI, AI recreations of different songs and mashups. And what if Adele sang this Snoop Dogg song, and like or what if Frank Sinatra sang this song, or like, it's just like, it's mind blowing that it's a thing, and we're still so early in the development of what AI is capable of to see where it's going to go. I just have like personally, I have zero interest in it.
Do you see though with like the people that you work with, be it the songwriters, the musicians, do you see them looking at this as a tool that they're embracing, or do you think this is going to be something that's like fought tooth and nail in your industry?
I think I I don't know, man. I mean, the music business right now is like interesting. I think there's like the true real like art artists and like creatives that are like, you know, I think like with the music business is a strange place where it's like music, which is like such like this pure like creative like emotive thing that like when you any art form, you know, whether it's painting or what, like when you add like business to it and you make a business out of it and you're not just doing it out of the pure joy of doing it, which is what, you know, I feel like everybody kind of gets into it for, or at least used to maybe like I just I picked up a guitar when I was 11 because I was like I heard ACDC and I was like, what the fuck, that is cool. Like I want, you know, and like you want to learn how to like make it sound like that so that people feel the way that I do when I'm listening to it, you know, and specifically girls. And but
So hold on, don't skip over that. So have you written songs? Like, was that your go-to? Like high school Jake pulls out the acoustic guitar at a house party, you're eyeing a girl, and you're playing, and you're just off the cuff.
no. But yeah, I mean, I've like, yeah, I used to write songs and I played in bands and stuff and all of that.
But you never wrote a song for a girl at a party, or like to close the deal on
No,
a
not
girl
like
that you were
at a party,
talking
not
to.
like in the moment, but like yeah, I've written songs for girls, which definitely had an intention behind it.
Did you did so that leads me to my second question, which is have you written a song for Haley?
No, because I don't I when I started when I started hanging out with Haley, I wasn't really writing songs anymore. Haley and I initially, uh, when we were in college before we started dating, like I was aware of her music and I thought what she was doing was interesting. It was not really what I was doing musically. And I remember like reaching out, like this is like back in like MySpace days, and I remember like reaching out to her and being like, "Yeah, we should like write sometime." And we like tried to write a song one time before we like were dating, and it was just like, "Yeah, no, that's like not gonna work." So, which is like hilarious, like because now, you know, she's my wife, and um, you know, I produce her records, and we're like we have this collaborative, creative relationship in addition to, you know, like
But
a
it started at ground zero being this is not gonna work.
no, yeah, no,
Oh, that's so fun.
yeah,
Um,
I like the like genuinely like the a little bit of the reluctance or reticence about where AI is going specifically in that field, because I feel like that from a creative writing standpoint, like one of the best writing classes I ever took was like an actual like a pretty renowned editor, and I didn't know anything about editing. And I imagine this happens with music, right? When you're working with somebody who's trying to make your music better, and you have to kind of have a good back and forth. And what I realized that what they did in the writing class is they would show us the first draft of these incredible, beloved authors. And you'd be like, yo, some of this stuff's not that good, or like they're making like mistakes, or like some of this stuff is like not anywhere, because you'd line up, you'd read their first draft, then you'd read the one that was published, and you'd see this like significant difference between the two. And the editor's talking about like sometimes the really great editors, they're not coming in and like picking the words so much, and like they're not like the reason it became better, but what they're interested in is they're interested in trying to figure out like what's the artist really trying to say, what's really like the magic here, and how do I help them get there. And that's why like an incredible editor is awesome, because they give a shit. They're actually like invested and interested in like getting the thing to be what they know it can be, and like unlocking that talent. And I bring that up with AI because I think writers are using AI almost like editors. Give me 5 other versions of this word. Give me this paragraph again, but maybe can you have it be a little bit more like comedic or sardonic or something? And the reason I have like that same reluctance is that there's actually a human heart kind of cool thing that happens between two people. And I don't know how much you resonate with that, Jake, when it comes to music, as far as somebody actually trying to unlock something or help something, that I worry about the same type of AI that's programmed on the same stuff, giving the same type of answers and feedback back that isn't going to lead to that same thing, or is where, you know, we'll see editor jobs go further and further away and only some of them stay around, or maybe not. I don't know. But that's the kind of stuff I'll think about sometimes, is like, you know, I don't want some like really beautiful artistry going to the wayside, because technically AI can do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know enough about it because, like I said, I don't use it, and I'm not aware of like all the applications. Like I'm sure there's things that I don't even realize AI is like benefiting my daily life. But like the thing that like grosses me out or like just is weird to me is like when it comes to like the genesis of like creativity, like AI like to me can't replace like the human feeling and all of that. Like sure, like using AI to like, I mean, I guess in a, you know, it's like before, I mean, I remember my vocabulary is not great, so like I remember when, you know, I mean, even still, like I'll like write, I'll be like typing an email and I'm like, this is like to my boss, like I need to sound more professional, and I'm like, well, Google, what's a synonym for, you know, whatever dumb shit thing I'm trying to say. And it's like, oh, that makes me sound smarter. Like that's not AI, but it's like you, like it's not me coming up with it. Like I'm using the internet. Like I'm using you know, but like, but to me what I feel like in art and like you can just, you know, it's like thinking about music and like not specifically just music but like artwork. It's like you can just have an AI generate like your album artwork, and it's like that's just like not, it's not the same thing to me. Or like I don't, like I've never like really encountered this, but like I think there's people that are like using AI to like generate like an initial rough draft of a song, like lyric or something. Like, hey, a song that is like up tempo and has a rock feel, you know, maybe some AC/DC guitars that I seemingly relate to, and it's about um, picking up a girl at the college party Drew was talking about. It's like they'll pop one out there, and like, and then like you can like take that and then like add your own touches to it and like make it like, that's like weird to me. Like I think like I think like in my space there's like some people that are using AI in, like I don't know how all they're using it, but like, you know, I know sometimes like you can AI a vocal now. Like if there's enough, if, and I don't know all the, you know, the logistics of this or like the data points of this, but like if there's enough recordings of Frank Sinatra out there, like you can use AI software to like basically like dissect his voice and the sound waves of his voice and how he approaches different phrasing and melodic things, and you can have somebody else sing um, who does not sound like Frank Sinatra, but they can do their best like Sinatra impersonation and like the phrasing and the melody and all that stuff. And then you can run that sound file through AI software that makes it come out the other end and it sounds like Frank Sinatra. And like I think you know, I think there's some people that like are using that when they're like, you know, maybe it's an artist, they like have a song but they don't have time to like go into the studio and record it to like demo it and see if it's something they might want to do. Like you can have people that just like sing it for them and it AI comes out the other way and they get to hear themselves and what they would sound like on this song. Like that like kind of feels like a like sort of like a useful tool to me, but it also like terrifies me and like where that goes.
So do
And
you think on that specifically, do you think there's like a blurred line there between, because one of the things that I didn't know coming up when I was younger was that the singer-songwriter dynamic versus the entertainer dynamic was like in my 5-year-old, 10-year-old brain, when I'm listening to, you know, Garth Brooks, George Strait, whoever it is, in my head, that's them, that's their song. They wrote it. They like, I thought the whole thing was them. I didn't realize that behind the scenes there was three dudes sitting in a writer's room playing a guitar and dissecting this thing line by line by line by line, and then presenting that to the artist, presenting that to whoever's going to record it and publish this song, and then put it out there and say, this is my thing that I'm putting out to the world. So my I guess the better way to ask that is, do you think that the singer songwriter is more in jeopardy of that being an issue, or do you think that there's going to be, or do you just lose that art altogether?
Wait, hold on, Andrew. Are you saying that like I got to let go of my ideal of Garth Brooks singing "I Got Friends in Low Places"? That was more than just him. You're gonna break my world open here?
Yeah, Garth Brooks did not write that song.
But I mean,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your question. I was just like,
no, but to me, that's probably the more interesting question. Is like, in the percentages of what you see out there, right, from recording artists across any genre. I don't want to pick on country music, but what artists that are writing, composing, nuts to bolts. I mean, what is it? 10%, 15%?
No, well, what's interesting, like, there's always been like people behind the scenes, and I mean, there's in making a record, like a hit record, like
Hundreds of people.
well, it depends on like the not 100, but like, and it depends on like the artists and all that. So, you know, some of them, you know, some artists are like they write all their own stuff by themselves. They record it all. Like, I mean, like Prince is a great example. Like, he wrote. I'm sure there's some stuff that he like collaborated on with other people, but like he predominantly wrote, recorded. Like, he's his own producer, engineer. Like, again, maybe had like an assistant engineer in the studio, but he like played all the instruments on his records, and like, you know, kind of this like creative savant that like, that's like Prince is Prince. Like, there's not many people behind the scenes of like who Prince is. But others, there's, you know, a whole, you know, band, they all write together, or like different people in the band write different songs, and then they have a producer, and there's engineers, and you know, all that stuff. It all just depends on the thing, but yeah, there's a lot of music and like art out there that like behind the scenes there's a lot of other people involved in that you don't realize when you just see the, you know, solo artist on the album cover. um it's interesting. I mean, I think what's an interesting case study in this like modern AI world thing is like, you know, not that long ago, like, and I'm not super well versed in their stuff, but like Milli Vanilli was like the the group that like everybody found out that they actually didn't sing on their records. They were just like the face and the dancers and the great live performance, but they were like they couldn't sing live or something. So like they were singing to tracks. Like, that happens all the time now. And like AI, I'm sure like I don't use AI in the studio when I'm making records. Like there's software and, you know, like auto tune and, you know, little things that you can do to not even auto tune, but like Melodyne to like, you know, if a singer like 99% nailed it, but you can tell their pitch is a little off, or like you want to shift the timing a little bit. Like, you can edit stuff like that. And I wouldn't call it, it's not AI. It's like digital software that like can help finesse things. But like Milli Vanilli got like canceled when people found out that they were not the actual ones doing everything that they thought they were. And I don't know, it's crazy.
But I mean, I've seen that recently where people are going to sing the national anthem, and they'll have a recording of them singing the national anthem that will be playing either 100% of the song, or they'll sing along with the recording to ensure that it works and matches up and everything's there. So like that world, I don't have a problem with. Like, why would you not want to have something in your back pocket to lean back on? But I think the question that comes to my mind is, like you said, the word finesse. Like, we're going to take this that's 95, 99% of the way there and finesse it to get to where we want it. Is that something that the human touch is the one that has to do that? Like, are you saying that when you hear that, you know, okay, this is this artist's sound, this is how they present their voice, their artistry, the rhythm of the song? Are you saying like that's got to be the human element that finds that and that fine tunes that, or do you think that there's a way that kind of comes around?
I mean, like for me personally, I want that to be the case. you know, like when I listen to music, like I feel like I'm naturally drawn towards people that are like seemingly like there's not like the curtain of the Wizard of Oz, and there's like this like whole like machine or computer behind it, or like a machine of people or a system of, you know, the business behind it. Like I feel like I resonate to music um, that feels authentic, but with AI and like technology and all this stuff now, and I mean this recording technology has been around for a long time. Like AI is a whole different thing, but like AI even more so. It's like it's harder and harder to, you know, decipher between what is what and what is not real. Like I don't know. I don't really listen to like rap music, but I was like driving home Memorial Day weekend last weekend, uh, and I kind of got burned out on like just listening to music because sometimes it could just start to feel like work. And so I started listening to I listened to the Rolling Stone Music Now podcast, and I was listening to I forget who was on, but they were talking about this whole like Drake Kendrick Lamar like rap beef. Are you guys hip to this?
Slightly.
Generally, yeah. I think I could like get like a C plus or B minus if I was quizzed on what happened.
Yeah, so I don't really like listen to. I mean, I cannot tell you a single Drake album or song title. Like it's embarrassing because I know he's like one of the biggest things on the planet. I don't listen to hip hop really, or pop music. So, but like they were talking about that, and apparently when that was going on, then like the internet went wild with like all these like AI generated, like fan generated, like rebuttals and like this guy who was on who I mean he seemed like it when he was talking. He's, you know, he's like well versed in this space, and like um like I didn't even know that like beefs and, you know, call out songs like this was like a thing in rap, and it has been a history of it, and like that whole like that's why I was interested because it's like fascinating to me, like this different genre that I'm not involved in, that like like anyways, I like was like enthralled with the whole thing, and like I ended up going like Spotify had this playlist where it was like in chronological order, like all the releases of like Kendrick and Drake and like how it went down, and it was kind of amazing. Like
Yeah. So who do you think won then?
who? Well, I don't think I know enough about it to like say, but like I mean, kind of
Who'd you
seems.
vibe with the most? Which tracks did you feel yourself leaning towards one of
Well, I
those
don't even
artists over the
remember the
others?
titles, but like there, dude, there. I will say there was a couple of the Drake songs that were kind of bops and like catchy, but as far as like winning the argument, and like who I guess showcased themselves as like the superior like rapper, like the art of rapping flow, like all that stuff. Like I'm a big jazz fan, and the dude that was talking was like kind of equating like which the whole like rap thing and like flow to like jazz, and like, you know, how like people approach like the improv over chord changes, and it actually kind of fired me up, and I feel like I'm about to go down this big rap rabbit hole now in my free time. But as far as like, I mean, who's the better rapper, like, and who got the final word and I guess won the argument or whatever, like Kendrick by far.
All right,
uh,
let's clip it. Jake reps Kendrick. Here we go.
no, but I
Upload
mean,
this to the
like
socials.
that being said, I'm sure like, you know, there's like I think it was like the first song that Drake put out in rebuttal. Like, I mean, it's like, I mean, it's a jam, dude. Like, I mean, it's catchy. It's a hit record. Like, and I'm sure, you know, Drake already is like uh, a bigger, you know, as far as like, you know, social media followers, like volume of
Right.
streams, platinum records. Like, he's on a bigger, like, he's a pop star, man. Like, Kendrick's not a pop star. Like, so like, is it a bigger song? Like, yeah, but like, is it a better rap song? And did he win the beef? Like, no, I think Kendrick did.
So I've got two things from that. One is going to go back a little bit, and I want to ask Charlie this, and the other one is just a general question for both of you. But when you were saying that you get tired of listening to music sometimes because it feels like work, like this passion that you have now feels like work because you're listening to a record and you know what gets put into it. To your point, you've pulled the curtain back, you see what makes it. Does that happen to you, Charlie? Like when I know you're into big into writing, does finding passion in that space come naturally? Is it easy, or does it feel like work now because there's such a big part of you that's put so much time and energy into understanding the dynamics in creative writing, screenplays, be it a novel, a short story, whatever it is? Like, do you find that same barrier?
Dude, I fucking hate writing. I don't even really do it. Like as much as I love it and part of my identity like wants to go towards being writing and I even think I'm like quite good at it. I fucking hate it, man. And maybe that'll change as I get older. That'd be great. I'm trying to like play with ways to like shift my mental approach to it, but it feels like hard work. I feel like I rarely do it. There was a time when I did a lot of it and got burnout. So that's my immediate answer is actually I don't really write much, you know, and it's part of why I'm trying to find other ways to create because I have the part of me that actually it's more important to me, which is just like creating stuff. Even if I don't give a shit on how it's validated or how it's deemed successful, just like there's a natural outlet that just wants to create things. So us getting on and like talking, meeting new people, having interesting conversations, like, I'm creating something and I'm getting this outlet. And so it's flowing much better in this project that you and I are working on and a couple other projects that I'm also working on. And in writing right now, or writing for the last couple of years, it really hasn't. That being said, a couple of the things that I have written, I'm super proud of. I'm really glad that I did it. But at no point in the actual doing of it was I enjoying myself. It was fucking work, man. I don't know. I don't want to pretend and lie like some. I don't know. I don't want to sound like, oh my god, writing is this beautiful thing and it just flows out of me. And I'm like, nah, it doesn't feel like that at all for me.
What do you write? And pardon me for not knowing, but this
No,
is
it's great. I love that we don't know that much about each
a
other.
blind date.
Yeah, I tend to write nonfiction because I also tend to like try to think about like how do I actually perceive or think about my life experience and what do I make of it? And so I think I've tended to like writing less for an audience and more for like self understanding, you know, finding conviction in my own reality, that kind of thing. So a lot of my writing has mostly been that. But some of the fun stuff that I've really enjoyed has been like weird short story shit. Like when I say weird, I mean like sci-fi or spiritual or just kind of like strange that kind of make you be like, this is kind of fucked up and strange. So two very different paths. So one of the things I'm really proud of for the last couple of years is I wrote about like a battle with anxiety and depression and then therapy and meds and eventually trying ketamine and all this kind of stuff and just kind of being like, you know what, not only do I want to kind of confirm for myself what I think of these last 4 years and going through all that, I also see the benefit to somebody else that might say, hey, I was kind of thinking about doing this ketamine treated assistant therapy and I'm trying to look and see if anybody's written really thoroughly about it. I'm like, oh, you know what? Like can be like one more voice that can says like, you know, I can't promise you what you might experience on that, but here's like what my experience was like. So I don't know if that helps answer that question.
Yeah, that's cool. Tell me about the ketamine.
Where do you want to start? Well, can I ask you a quick question? I'm not evading the ketamine thing. I'm always happy to talk about it. But do you know who Bernie Taupin is?
Yeah, the lyricist for Elton John.
Yeah. Okay. So here's my super niche question, and if it doesn't resonate, then let's just move on. But my niche question is like, why do we think we don't have more Bernie Taupins? And I don't mean that they don't exist. They probably do exist. But like I and a lot of people that aren't like super into music like know who Bernie Taupin is, even though he's not the voice on any of the songs. And I'm like, who is that today that's not singing but is like known? And why did it happen with him? And why doesn't it happen more often? And, you know, I'm not expecting you to like know the answer, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on that because I find that really interesting.
Well, like, what do you mean by like more Bernie Taupins? Because like, I think it depends on like how you look at it.
Yeah.
Like if you just mean like like lyricists that like work with that write songs with like I mean I've obviously never sat in a room or a studio or whatever to see how Elton and Bernie operate, but the general vibe that I've picked up on is like Bernie exclusively writes the lyrics, and Elton writes the music, and then and I think in different cases, like it can start with one and it can start with the other, but it's two separate things. And then I think, you know, it's music's not just like melody and lyrics. It's like how it all plays in together. And like, I think like very rarely is it like them sitting down together. It's like more like Elton's like, hey, I got this piece of music, and then he's like, hey, I got this thing I've been working on, and this fits it, and then Elton takes it and like puts the words into the music. That's the vibe I've gotten, but like I'm by no means like an expert on that. Um, but
Well, here I'll clarify. When I say why aren't there more of them, I realize I wasn't being very clear. I mean, like, why did Bernie Taupin, like, why did his name become more popular, like more well known? Like, clearly there must be other relationships like this, but for some reason, my parents, myself, other friends, we know his name. You know?
Well, I
Does
think
that make sense?
Yeah, I think one is because Elton's like massive.
Yeah.
And I mean he's a generational talent. Like I mean Elton's incredible, but I think it's because what made it so interesting was because uh, Bernie had such a specific role in it, but it wasn't just like one song. It was like the vast majority of the discography, and like Bernie does have other things outside of Elton that he would split off and do, but like none of it ever like was on the level of commercial success or critical acclaim that um, what he did with Elton was. And then Elton never really had another person that he like. I'm sure there's other songs that Elton's had that have been like hits or whatever that he's written with other people, but like not like it's like Bernie was the consistent guy like only for Elton. And so it's like this unique, like kind of weird, like creative synergy that I think people talk about in like this partnership. But there's others too, um, like a lot of the Grateful Dead stuff. It's Hunter or Robert Hunter and Jerry Garcia, and Jerry was very much the music guy, and Robert Hunter wrote a lot of the lyrics. It's like poems, and then like Jerry would put them to music, or a piece of music Jerry would like inspire Robert Hunter to like write these lyrics, and then they would kind of put it together. And Jerry's collaborated with other people like in the band. Like Robert wasn't even in the band, so that's like another like that's probably
What?
that's like the closest thing to the top in Elton John.
Andrew, this is my happy space, by the way. I asked if there was like another top end, and he's like, actually, I got one for you. And I'm like, now I think that can like geek out.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you said Grateful Dead, just like Scarlet Begonias just started dancing around in my head, and I'm just like bopping to that song now. And I love it because that was what I was going to ask on the other end was the clarification was like, do you see that today? Is there like a prolific songwriter whose voice is being carried out by an artist specifically? Like, do you have like a powerhouse artist that's got one writer that's just like hammering home writing songs for them that people maybe not know? They might not understand how that works, but like,
Or
I know.
is it even like possibly an artist like like Carole King had her own music, but she was also writing for other people too. And I sometimes wonder that if there's like a prolific artist that we all know, but we don't realize they're also writing songs for other people too.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of examples of that. There's also like just a lot of like really successful songwriters that. Hold on, I'm opening up a beer real quick. That, yeah, I mean, they get songs recorded by a lot of people, or people that write songs with a lot of different artists. Like, I mean, if you go through like liner note credits and like writing credits on a lot of modern songs, like even pop stuff, like you see a lot of the same names.
But is there a voice in country music that has a backbone that maybe a lot of people don't know that somebody is writing for them specifically? And I don't know if that's a bad question in terms of like blowing up somebody's spot, but like to the
Right.
Bernie Elton thing, it's like that was there. Like that was super prolific. That was super ahead of everything that was happening. And that music, to your point, was generational. I mean, I grew up listening to Elton John in my house regularly. And when I got to see him, this is weird. I didn't even think about this. I actually got to go cater for Elton John at Bridgestone through Zoomy, a
What?
sushi shop. Yeah, that Jake and I worked at together, and their payment to us was letting us be side stage at his concert at Bridgestone. It was
Wait,
by far,
Elton John ate Zuni sushi?
yeah. We catered their last show at Bridgestone because Mike Walker was like, "Oh, I can't do it. I'm actually going to be at the concert." So then I got stuck doing it with this guy named Matt, who was doesn't matter what he was, but it was an insane experience. But is there somebody out there now that's doing that to that degree? And maybe not in terms of like generationally talented, but like, does that dynamic exist where like this artist has this songwriter, that is their voice, that is their backbone?
Not like that exclusively. I feel like the Bernie Elton thing is, but there's just like hit songwriters that like go on a run, and then all these artists, want to cut their songs. So they're all over, but like not. And there's like people that have like, definitely like have like a creative partnership where they're a part of a lot of records over time and over a discography. But like, um, like looking back in time a little bit, like George Strait's like kind of like I feel like it's pretty widely known that until the last like decade or so, like George like didn't really write like any of his music. Like he found song like there's a whole community of people in Nashville that write songs, and there's publishers, and they pitch their songs to the A&Rs and the producers, and they were trying to get on George Strait records. And yeah, he's like, I feel like pretty openly, and it's like widely known that like like, what's your favorite George Strait song? Like, he didn't write it. Like,
Yeah.
and
Teach me, Jake. I don't know this shit. I'm learning. This is my dream. Teach me.
yeah, and so
All
like
right.
so like in country music, probably one of the greatest, like Bernie Taupin and Elton John. Like again, that's different because Bernie wrote like the songs with Elton, but like
Right.
just like behind the scenes, like kind of creative partnerships is like Dean Dillon or George Strait singing Dean Dillon songs. And I mean, I don't know how many he's got at this point, but like Dean's probably had 70 songs recorded by George over his entire career. And like, he just kind of like what he, it started because I like, somebody's going to hear this and probably text me and correct me, but like, I think Dean had a record deal and was kind of like a little bit like, I don't want to say he was like a huge artist, but like he had a record deal and was like a couple of years into a record deal, trying to get his own artist career like blown up and on the tracks and going. And he had a song that I think something maybe went south with his label deal, or wasn't looking that great. And there was this new guy, this new young, fresh face in town, good looking George Strait, and there was this Dean Dillon song. I think it was Unwound. Is it? I'm gonna like look that up real quick. That I think they wanted. Yeah, hold on. Song credit. Yeah, I think that is a song. Dean did write it, but it was like gonna be Dean's single, and then they asked if like George could have it, and I think Dean was like maybe frustrated with like his situation with the label or just the artisting in general, and he was like, "Yeah, cool," and let George record it, and then I don't think it was like a huge hit, but I think it was like enough of a hit that then like George was like, "Hey, thanks," and like I like what you do, and like what George was doing as an artist, like naturally resonated, or he was drawn to like what Dean did, and Dean like wrote the songs, and I think Dean was starting to get other people recording his songs. He's like, "Oh, I'm making a lot of money doing this, and I don't have to go tour. I don't have to go shake the hands and kiss the babies, and maybe I should just focus on the songwriting thing." And then George is this young fresh face, and
And he's Dan
takes off,
Hansen.
and then he has his career where like he basically, Dean's had a lot of cuts on, and he's a Hall of Fame songwriter and has had cuts on a lot of other artists, but the kind of horse that he rode in on was George Strait.
Yo.
I dig it.
Damn.
So the The other question I had from what you were talking about with the Kendrick and the Drake thing, right? You were talking about Drake being this like massive pop star and it's like mass appeal, where Kendrick is more like the lyricist diving into that world. Do you think so? When you were saying that, I kept thinking about food. I kept thinking about like there's restaurants that are geared for people who there's restaurants for people who literally go out to have their mind blown, that go out to have this experience that's very specific to them. It's a very unique, very niche guy doing something that's very, very kind of off the cuff, right? And then you've got your mass appeal restaurants that everybody loves, everybody talks about, everybody's been to, and you can, throw anything at it. In the world of music, do people aspire to be one or the other? And is there like within the industry, is there like this like kind of like turn your nose to people who don't want to transcend to that ultra level of mass appeal nationwide? And I know it's a lot more difficult in music to break through, but from the standpoint of like, does that exist in music? Right? Do you have the ability to say this is a niche thing? It's not going to be mass appeal, but we love it. We're going to invest in it. We're going to ensure that it still exists because we know what it's going to do to everything else. Like great chefs that exist in their bubble, but they inspire. Like I look at Danny Meyer and 11 Madison Park and then how that turned into Shake Shack and what Shake Shack has been able to do. More people have eaten Shake
Tell me
Shack
about
than
that because I don't know that. I don't know that
What?
whole
Sorry,
technology.
huh? Yeah.
so
What?
Danny Meyer owned 11 Madison Park, which was the world's 50 best restaurants, number one restaurant in the world for a long time. Daniel Hume, the chef, came in and took over. They worked out a deal, whatever. But Danny Meyer also had Shake Shack, right? Shake Shack was the what paid the bills. 11 Madison Park was what filled the bucket, right? What made the soul feel good. But when he wrote "Setting the Table," you think about that, but you don't think "Setting the Table" Shake Shack. You think "Setting the Table" 11 Madison Park, right? Then you have the next iteration of that, which is Will Guidara with his Unreasonable Hospitality. But Shake Shack was it's the same company at the time. It was the same thing. But Shake Shack paid the bills, had mass appeal. More people will eat at Shake Shack than will ever eat at 11 Madison Park, right? Just from a sheer numbers, just a sheer access. That's what it is. So from the standpoint of music, who are the people that are making the 11 Madison Parks, like the super, I want to be in this thing versus the Shake Shack? And I'm not judging either one. I eat Shake Shack and I would love to be able to go to 11 Madison Park one day. But like, is there a respect for that? Like, is there a, and maybe this is going to be bad for me to say, and I don't mean to, but like, is there a difference between Sturgill Simpson and Chris Stapleton? You get what I'm saying? Like, I kind of feel like Sturgill's got this like, if you like it, you fucking love it, and I want to listen to it all the time. But if I say Chris Stapleton, my guess is, Charlie, you've listened to a few Chris Stapleton songs.
Okay, first off, I fucking love Sturgill Simpson, so how about that? But yes, I know Chris Stapleton is too. But Sturgill is actually, funny enough, like probably like one of like 5 country artists that would be on my like Spotify playthrough.
And
But
just
point taken, I
shamelessly, I will throw it out there. Charlie also a big Casey Musgraves fan over here.
think. Yes.
So being in the industry is as tight as you are in that industry with singer-songwriters, producing records, your wife is on fucking tour. What does that world look like? Like, how do you go, today I want a fucking cheeseburger or tonight I want a tasting menu?
Well,
You don't have to answer this, by the way.
well, like that's where it gets. That's where it's like the weird, intersection of art and business. It's like, are you asking me what I want to go like what when we're done with this? I'm gonna like put on my turntable and listen to tonight, or like, um,
You don't even have to talk about specifics. I'm asking you specific. Like, is there a home for the person who does it for the joy of doing it, that does it, and they don't have the care of what happens on the other end? They're not trying to be the national hit record. They're putting out a project because they love it, versus the person who is making that pop song, that hit, to fill arenas, to fill stadiums, to transcend beyond a passion project. Do
well,
you feel
I
like
think it's
both of those exist
yeah, I
or
think it's
can exist?
yeah, 100%. I think it's like an entire spectrum of it. I think yeah, I think it's a spectrum, and I mean, I do think there's a lot of artists that still, go into a writing room and a recording studio, um, because they're just creatively inspired and it's what they do, and they're trying to make great art and connect with their fan base through their talents and the medium of what that is, which is music in this case. And then I think there's also artists who their main motivation is lowest common denominator, homogenized for the masses. Let's sell hit records, but then I think it's an entire spectrum of the people that on that side that are just focused on making hit records that are like making records that aren't hits that are also really bad. And then also at the same time, like artists that are just in it and for the creative and the art and connecting with people, and they can and oftentimes do. And I think a lot of the people you referenced already, like I think they fit into this category where that's I think what their approach to making music is. It's music first, not business, but they're fortunate that they also happen to be commercially successful as well. And I feel like that is like, to me, I guess the goal, like as like I'm a creative myself as a producer, but like working in the business, like that's the goal of who you want to work with. People that are, to me personally at least, people that are, creatively motivated for the right reasons and making great creative product, but it still is a product, from the seat of somebody who works in the business who is not the creator. And so getting to work with those people is great because you win on both sides. You're like, I love listening to this music and they're amazing, and the job I have supports that, and also the music they're making supports my job, because if it was not, then I wouldn't have a job. So like, I feel like anybody in the music business, that's like the kind of like double-edged sword of the whole thing, and like that crossing of art and commerce, like it's a really confusing and sometimes ugly uh, place and frustrating place. But when it works, it works. And but like the whole thing, it's a spectrum, man. And it's like, who sang that? Like, you remember in like 2000, probably when we were rolling Sushi, 2000 and what was uh 12 maybe?
Yeah, 11, 12, yeah.
You remember
10,
that?
11.
You remember that like "Call Me Maybe" song?
Yeah.
Who sings that song? There you go. Don't Google it. You
I
don't
know
know.
it. I do know it.
No. My point has been proven.
Yeah.
That was the biggest song of like that 3 months. Like, but like also at the same time, was it not a good song? Like, I mean, everybody knew it. It's catchy as shit. Like, it's still stuck in my head. Like, just because it's not like the most artistic person, like, is that a good song? Is it a bad song? Like, I don't know. It's sold a lot of records. Like,
That's what I think. That's where I think the magic is, right? Is like we can all three go eat the exact same thing, and we all have three different takeaways. I could say that's wildly mediocre.
hold on. Can I get my pizza on this?
Yeah. Hell
Sorry.
yeah.
Hold on. Dogs outside. Come on, outside. Sorry, guys.
No, I
You're
love
fine. This is great.
There's
What's her
3884.
name?
884.
Papa John's.
Right.
I'm judging you so hard right now, Jake.
Oh,
Dude, I asked you for a referral, like a recommendation, and you're like, I don't know.
Dude, you
dude.
didn't ask for a pizza recommendation.
Papa John's with that garlic sauce that you can dip into. Oh man.
Listen, I'm not gonna lie. Papa John's is fucking good, but when I want Papa John's, I want Papa John's, right? But
Yeah.
when I want I never go Papa John's pizza, which sounds crazy.
I know.
But I
know what you mean.
I want Papa John's. But for me, it's the warm pepperoncinis. I don't know why, because I pull them out of the fridge and they're cold and I try to eat them. Yes.
There it is. There's the garlic sauce. That's my.
Do you
Oh my
guys
god, I
have
love that stuff.
Papa John's in LA?
I'm sure they have it here. I haven't had it since I moved here, but I'm sure they have it. Let's see.
I love
When
it.
did you move to LA?
Like 2.5 years ago, maybe coming up on 3 years. It is. Papa John's like half a mile from me.
Look
Do
at
you like
there.
LA?
I love LA, but we have this conversation a lot of the time where I have this conversation all the time because I moved from the East Coast and I moved from New York. So everybody's like first question is like, "Oh, do you like LA? What do you think about LA?" And I think I always frustrate people because I'm like, I think the reason I like LA is just because I like myself a lot better. Like I think I'm a lot healthier person than I used to be. So I think that impacts like where you are. But I'm always happy to
In
talk
New
about what I
York
like.
City?
Yeah, I was in New York for 12 years.
Man,
Yeah.
those are the two places that I don't understand how people live.
In
mean,
what
yeah.
way?
New York specifically, I did like, it is befuddling to me how you can exist as a human being long term in that city. I have friends that live there. I have friends that have lived there that don't live there anymore, but that love it and wish they could move back. I don't get it. And then LA, I like LA. I visit LA for work. I I love it. I just don't. It's so expensive. I'm unfortunately not filthy rich. So like
Well, I was gonna say my favorite thing about one of my favorite lines about New York is from LCD Sound System. I'm blanking on
I
the
love
guy's
LCD.
name.
Some
But he says New York City is a great place to live if somebody else is paying the rent. That's one of his songs. So I think for like the extremely wealthy, it's just a playground. And when you're in your 20s, it can be so much. It can be so much fun. But I'm just
watching on HBO Max, and I know it's an older show, and I never watched it because I didn't think I was the target demographic for it. But I'm watching that Girls show.
yeah, it's making a comeback right now. It's got a lot of people watching it right now.
It's so good. But
Jake, I could just spend the next 20 minutes talking about Girls now. I'm going to tell you a little bit talk about Ketamine and Girls TV show, and now I'm like in my fucking wheelhouse.
I want to talk about Girls. Girls, though, the thing that's amazing is like every character on that show, you both like can't stand, but also love at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
so ketamine. You talked about this on a couple podcasts, but I don't know that we've ever actually talked about it. And as much as you're willing to, because I know it's a very personal thing for you, and it was a very introspective journey from what I could tell from the outside looking in. So as much as you're willing to divulge,
no, it's not hard for me to talk about. I think part of the reason is because I extensively opened up and wrote about it in a place that's just sitting publicly on the internet. So like the deepest, most like darkest dive you can take on it exists for anybody's consumption. So I think like once I published that, it became much easier to talk about if it makes sense versus. But I appreciate you kind of like putting that on the front end, like, you know. But yeah, I think it's probably more interesting to know what you know about it already or don't know about it or what is interesting to you, because there's a lot of different ways to go about it. But I'm more than happy to talk about my experience because I think it's really interesting.
So my understanding of ketamine, and this is because where I'm from and the white trash that I've grown up around, ketamine was what people broke into the fucking the veterinarian's office to use to make drugs that they would make in a Ziploc bag with butane and then pass it out at high school and tell everybody that it was the greatest experience on the planet. So
I
the
thought
fact
ketamine was like horse tranquilizers.
Yeah, you guys are both right.
Special K,
Oh, really?
I think, comes from ketamine, right? Like the street drug that they use, they do something with it in a bag and it turns into something I don't know. But that was my only understanding of ketamine for ever until recently when you talked about it for therapy. So that's my understanding. That's what I know. When the first time you said you did ketamine, I was like, that's a very interesting drug to try recreationally.
Yeah, no, was not recreationally taken. I didn't K-hole like many people do. No, it was measured by a.
Ketamine, and what does a recreational ketamine?
I almost want to believe that there's an episode in Girls where somebody K-holes, but that might be White Lotus, different HBO show.
What's a K-hole?
You take so much ketamine that you like almost like pull out of your body, go into what they call a K-hole. mix of like euphoria for some people, disassociation for some people, terrifying for some people, but usually not. Usually it's a good feeling, but it also can be dangerous for obvious reasons. You don't want to ever take too much of a substance. But I'm not an expert on K-holes. I just know that is a popular term that people would use for chasing a high. Okay, so I'll do like the short version of this, but there was just been studies that are promising that ketamine taken at the right dosage helps people with depression, and like especially helps people that have what you would call like treatment resistant depression. So we gave you Lexapro and all these different SSRIs. We've like tried all these different methods, and you're just still depressed or anxious or PTSD or whatever. But we tried ketamine on you, and not only did you show really positive results, you didn't show a dependency on the drug, and we don't have to keep giving it to you. Whereas like I was on SSRIs for 2 years, and I was terrified to get off of it, and I was taking it, every single day for over 2 years, and it was hard for me to get off of it, and has, of course, a ton of side effects. Whereas I had an incredible ketamine experience, but like really an incredible experience. But to this day, I've never had a urge or a draw or like, I got to get back on that shit, So that's the one thing is there's a lot of promising studies coming out about how this is a really helpful thing. But for the actual interesting part of like, what was it like when it got, injected into my body? I did 2 different ways. I did one as a tablet that I just kept in my mouth until it dissolved. And I did another one where intravenously, I got a shot. Man, I would say
doctor administered though, right?
Yeah. Who's been a licensed doctor who's gone through all the training and certification to administer ketamine in the right doses. It for me, the reason it was so transformational and such a huge thing for me is that I tend to live my life with my jaw really tight, my shoulders up, my fists like this. I know these are all physical things I'm saying, but you can relate it mentally. Like I'm kind of like always charged, always waiting for like trying to be prepared for something that can happen. And that takes a toll on your body, that amount of stress and anxiety about things all the time. The ketamine, when it was hitting my system, I just felt like peaceful and no worries at all. And just felt like some sense of like everything is okay. And I need for nothing, like there's nothing that I externally need, but I felt it in my body, not just like all heady up in my head, like physically, I could also feel my muscles, every part of me just feeling at peace. And the reason why I find that the work I did with my therapist, especially afterwards, is that we were seeing ketamine less as like a miracle drug and more as a way to realize that you can create that feeling in your body without drugs. But it sometimes takes work for people. But the idea is that it's possible for your body to not always be in this activated fight or flight, stressful, anxious mode. And I and a lot of other people, we live there. That's like our comfort spot, is to always be ready to like fight or flight and to always be anxious. And ketamine was like a really quick way to be like, wait, it's possible in my physical body to feel a different feeling. And if that's possible, then I want to know more how to get that shit. I want to know more how to live life like that without needing to be on Lexapro every single day or without having to be on other stuff. So that's probably like the shortest way I can explain it. I had a very strong transformational feeling in my muscles, in my body, in my head, in my fucking heart. And then I came out of that being like, yeah, this is the work I want to keep doing. So I'm not taking other drugs and I don't need to take drugs. And I can just like cultivate within myself an ability to feel relaxed, to feel peaceful, to feel like everything's okay. Something bad's not always around the corner, or something bad isn't like inside me, whether it's self-hatred or self-criticism, etc. So that is my take at trying to kind of, like you said, we haven't really talked about it too much head on, Andrew, but that's pretty much, if I was at a cocktail party or at a bar, that's probably how I would open up about it.
So you don't like, like when did you have that experience?
That's a good question. Maybe it's been 2 years now, maybe year and a half or 2 years around
and you
there.
You haven't like done it at all since, or
maybe once. I think I did. The idea that we were doing was we're going to have a few sessions. And what's really nice is that, you might be under the effects for 60 minutes to 90 minutes, depending on your body, depending on the dosage. And while you're under that, you can talk up so much shit because you're not afraid of anything. Like fear has kind of left your body. So stuff that otherwise you get really uncomfortable with, that you don't want to process, that you're not really interested in talking about, that you've learned how to fucking put away and whatever, you're just not afraid. And so you're able to like surface up stuff, you're able to talk about stuff. And then, you know, you might say, okay, I want to do another session again because there's more stuff I kind of want to get to or whatever. So yeah, I think I've done 3 sessions. They were all kind of planned. And then, yeah, I've never had a, and I'm sure some people have, right? I'm sure that people do have issues with it. I'm sure there are like dependency issues or addictions that's come out of it. So I don't want to like overpromise anything for a ton of other people, but I can say like confidently that I've never had that like I did for SSRIs.
That's insane.
Go ahead, Drew.
No, I was gonna say that's crazy because I guess my thought about what it would be is that I didn't realize that it was like a fear inhibitor, that it would just kind of like allow you to open up. I thought it was going to be more towards the lens of disassociation, stepping out of your body, being able to take a different look at it without judgment. So like that's where like my assumptions went, was like separate the mind from the body and look at them as 2 separate things, and don't make assumptions, no judgment, and let both of them exist together. Whereas what you're saying to me is a lot more approachable and a lot more, I'm more intrigued now than I ever have been with it, because I feel like that's what I'm really good at in therapy, is like I can sidestep some shit, I can compartmentalize the shit, and I can make up things that prevent the line of question going deeper. And to say that there's an option to have this sort of like magic pill to like guide you through that is very intriguing to me.
I don't, and just to say, I don't like being out of my body. I don't like feeling dissociated. Like I've never really done much drugs. I don't like the feeling of getting away. I like, for all the same reasons we talked about, being like a stressful, anxious person and like wanting to defend myself. I want to stay in all the time. So yeah, I felt more like I went more into my body. And I'd say like 95% of the self-help, mental health therapist stuff I've done in my life has really not been effective, because all I was trying to do was think myself out of problems. I was
Right.
like, if I'm feeling sad, if I'm angry, if I'm stressful, if I'm like not liking the way I'm feeling, it's a mental issue. I just need to think differently. I need to like change the way. I just only saw it as stuff in my head, like stuff I can control, like studying for like a math test or some shit. And then the pivot where all the good stuff is like, what if like my physical body deserves to be just as part of this conversation as much? Like all the annoying shit about people telling me to like be active and to like think about my fucking nutrition and how much sleep I'm getting. What if all that annoying stuff actually is part of this equation too? You know, and like the relationships I'm in, the kind of job I'm in, what kind of stress is that leading in? Like, am I stressed out in this job? You know what? That stress actually probably has as much to do with my situation as these other things. So yeah, I would say ketamine was really helpful for that, because, and if anything, you feel more, I felt more centered in my body. I didn't feel like I was going away. I felt like I was learning that like everything is okay inside, you know. And I'm sure other people have written probably different types of takes and have all different types of experiences, but fear leaves, man. I did not want to do it. I do not like taking experimental shit. I am like the last person to say yes to anything, and I was really resistant because I was like, I had fear that like I would take this tablet or they would inject me with this, and I'd have like a psychic breakdown, you know, or I'd go crazy, or I'd have to like be put into like a mental institution. Like seriously, I'm not kidding. Like these were actual fears I had, even if I didn't tell other people about it. Like something crazy would break in my brain if I did this thing. And actually just like all the fear left my body and I learned to relax. But the key thing I always tell people is don't get too enamored with all the cool, awesome shit I'm saying about it, because I saw it as a tool. And I don't want people to think that what I'm saying is a cure, you know, because that's where I think stuff gets dangerous. People are always looking for like something that they can think of as like a cure all to whatever their stuff is. And for me, it's like this drug is a really effective, really cool, really promising tool to learn more about yourself, maybe learn like patterns you have, coping mechanisms you have that just aren't serving you anymore and are causing like more harm than you realize, because you've learned how to not really like allow yourself to think about any of them, you know?
Wow. What were you going to say, Jake?
Oh, I was just gonna say I never done ketamine, but uh I did mushrooms for I did the microdose thing for like a solid regimented microdose schedule. I guess it was like, I don't know, like maybe 2 years ago. I started a year and a half ago. But when I started doing it, I was like, same reason, like anxiety shit. And I had recreationally enjoyed mushrooms a few times in the past, but it had been a while because I had a really bad experience in college, and so I was always apprehensive to it. And but then started like hearing about it, like kind of in the same context where it's like a tool. And so I just like bit the bullet and I bought like a bunch of mushrooms, and I like did this regimented like microdose schedule for mentally. I set out to do it for a whole year, but um, I got like 8 9 months into it, and it just kind of like petered out naturally. Like, and it, I mean, I every once in a while I recreationally take a not a microdose, but it actually like I found it that it amongst like it wasn't the solution, kind of like kind of what you're saying. It's not like the cure all, but like that uh, in conjunction with um, I'd been going and still do going to therapy for like a year or two at that point, and just like being more self aware of everything mentally, emotionally, physically, yourself. It was a really positive thing, but it just naturally kind of I lost interest in it because I didn't feel like I needed it, which was
Hell yeah, dude.
kind of crazy. Which is like it's funny. It's like people are like drugs, they're like addictive. You're gonna like be crawling out of your skin when you don't have them, and there definitely are drugs that do that, but like some of these things I think have just been misprojected through our culture as like you know I don't even know if I'd call it a drug. It's a tool for I don't know. I enjoyed it. I don't. What's weird is like I still like have a bunch, and it's like I have like I mean it's Friday 7:30. You'd think I'd be like fuck yeah, like let's trip. Like I just have like kind of no desire because it's just like it's cool, like, whatever.
For Andrew's benefit, unless you already know this, ketamine, MDMA, psilocybin, which is in mushrooms, they're all sharing these kind of similar experiences and results in really promising areas for, biotech, SF, VCs, all this kind of stuff. But, one of the reasons I don't think we've seen it as much is because of what Jake's talking about, what I'm talking about, which is I was somebody that did not have a lot of self-acceptance, not a lot of self-love, not a lot of self-kindness. Because to like accept who I am or to like parts of myself or to be kind to myself felt like I was putting myself in danger. Like I wasn't safe there. I need to always deflect compliments, stay hungry, stay restless, because then I can't get hurt, right? So then if I start taking some type of thing that is helping me on this journey of like trying to figure out how the fuck do you start to like yourself, even if everybody on the outside thinks that you're always happy, because people would on the outside always think I'm completely fine, I'm like life of the party, all that. But like actually whether or not do I actually like myself and accept who I am with all my faults and stuff, but like accept myself. You start taking a drug that helps you do that, well, then also you need to take drugs less, so you can see like from a pharma model, SSRIs like Lexapro is a way better model for them because if you start to not take your Lexapro, you have issues. Most people like me start to have withdrawal from this drug that's supposed to keep me, from being like suicidal or depressed, right? So I hope that there's way more growth in this field because it just makes way more sense. And that's probably one of my biggest testaments to ketamine's help is kind of similar to what Jake is saying is like, no, I'm good. I'm not, that wasn't something that I needed to get to a place. That was like something that's helped me realize I don't need things to get to places. I
Yeah,
don't know if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. It totally lands because I think that's been my apprehension is that a lot of where my head's been at was coming from the world of an addict. Like alcohol for me was always that vein of where I lived. And, people always talked about like, oh, you do it because you love drinking. And it's like, no, I don't give a shit about the drinking. I care about the feeling. It's like there's this line from The West Wing where Leo McGarry's sitting there talking, and he's talking to somebody who's not an addict, and they go, "Why did you like drinking so much?" He's like, "I didn't like drinking. It's like I liked the feeling. How could you feel that good and not want to feel like that forever?" And that's how I felt because like when I drank, I was like, "Fuck yeah, I feel like $1,000,000. I'm gonna do it." And then it's like there's no repercussion for it, right? In the moment, in the present tense, which is where I live 99% of my life. It's like I'm writing a check today that future Andrew has to cash. And for me, that math equation always equaled now is more important than later. And I think that's been my apprehension or my fear of doing anything in that space with assisted therapy, be it ketamine, psilocybin, LSD, whatever it is. All of that goes to my brain, which is this feels good. I want to feel like that more. And that's where I get hesitant on
Probably,
dabbling.
but it's probably good to be hesitant in that manner, right? I'd say two things. I'd say one, just to cover my own ass on the podcast, having a doctor that is licensed and certified in all this and asks all the right questions and finds out who is and isn't a good candidate for something, like I think that's the way to go versus like sounding like I'm so pro this drug that anybody should just get their hands on and do it. So I just want to like really clearly say that. I think knowing that you have somebody you trust who knows the drug and can ask all the right questions is important. But the second part, I just want to relate to you on this because I mean, I think we talked about it before, but like the drinking for me, same thing. Like I drink less now than I ever have, but mostly because I recognize like I didn't like the way I felt that like to not drink, I was giving up something. I was giving up either the best version of myself, the most like smooth, fun, like perceived by others to be like the way I wanted to be perceived, and just actual natural enjoyment from something. So it's like, well, I'm at this wedding, I can drink and actually really have like max fun, or I could not drink and just be thinking about like how, man, if I was drinking, I'd be having more fun. So there was this like, I'm giving up something and there's a loss. And then there's this personality thing that I think is like the part that was harder to deal with, was like this belief that was wrong, that like some part of my personality that's better is unlocked by alcohol. And if I don't have alcohol, I lose like this part of my personality that's better than my base personality. And those aren't things I would have said out loud when I was in those places. It only took all this reflection to realize like that's actually like some of the programming and things that were going on. But I'm grateful that there's like these other substances and tools I can say like, you know, now if I still drink from time to time, but I no longer feel that same feeling about the alcohol, which is really nice. But wow, we ended up in a different place than where we started. That's for sure. But I hope hope this is interesting for you too, Jake, as far as the ketamine bit.
Yeah, no, I think that the whole thing's interesting. I don't have a desire to do it or feel like at this point like a need to use it as a tool. But I feel like I did a similar thing, like I said, with the psilocybin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a solution, but I think it helped. So yeah.
Yeah, it ended up kind of in a warm, fuzzy place, man. I don't have anything else. I don't know about you, Andrew. I'm like, I kind of want to eat now because I saw Papa John's. I keep thinking about Papa John's, even though I don't have any.
I just crushed that whole fucking pizza. So
I love it. Jake, you got anything you want to wrap up with? Anything you we didn't touch on you wanted to talk about? Questions for Charlie or myself or anything in that vein?
When are you cooking me dinner?
Hey, what are you cooking?
I love cooking for Jake. This didn't come up in earlier, but I don't know if I've ever actually told you how this came about, Jake, but you asked me during COVID to cater your wedding, right? And we did a tasting at my house.
Rushed it.
Hey. Thank you. But so in my head, when this all happened, he was like, yeah, we're getting married, you know, whatever, blah, 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 blah. I mean, this is peak COVID, this height of COVID when he asks me this. So in my brain, I'm like, dude, 100%. It's a small wedding. It'll be at your house, some industry friends in Nashville. Everything's fine. I just say yes, like out of the gate. But like that's where my brain was small industry, 30, 40 people, Nashville. I can handle it. I got a bunch of kitchens. So then we get down the road, we do the tasting, we start talking about what he wants, and it's like barbecue, Southern thing. Then I'm like, okay, cool, that's easy to do in bulk. And in my head, it's still 40 people, backyard, East Nashville. And he's like, yeah, we're doing it at Haley's dad's farm in Iowa. And I was like, okay, Iowa, yeah, cool, I could still cook. And he's like, I think we're at like 320 people. And I was like, oh shit. Like this just went from like,
oh my God.
Yeah, but it just went from like I could borrow my buddy's kitchen in town to do prep and take it with me to how do I now recreate a kitchen? And the best part about it was literally in the middle of her dad's cornfield. So this was not like at a convention center.
That sounds fucking cool though.
Dude, it was to this day, the coolest fucking wedding that I've ever been to. And I didn't even partake in the wedding. I was sweating my ass off cooking fucking 320 people food
God.
in the middle of a
Yo,
cornfield.
if you've got pictures or video of that, I'd love to see what that looked
Jake
like as far as
probably
the
does.
food setup or anything. That's amazing.
My head was only on smoking chickens, making macaroni and cheese, and fucking cornbread for like 9 hours that day. But I mean, dude, the
Wow.
menu was massive. And it was me, Adam, and my cousin who has no idea how to cook. I love the guy to death, but he's
Wow.
not like a professional cook. He cooks at home, backyard barbecue, weekend warrior. Love the guy to death.
Yeah.
But like trying to get him, like, hey, we're doing this for 320 people. Like,
Oh
we
my
got to fucking
God.
go. It was awesome. It was, to this day, one of the most fun experiences I've ever had.
Wow.
Because like we talked about earlier, like that difficult thing always has the biggest reward. And that was the most difficult thing I've ever had to
You
figure
pulled
out
it
in my
off.
brain. Well,
Pulled
it
it
wasn't
off.
just me. We had a lot of help, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And everybody there, like even still, like run into people that I haven't seen much since then, and they bring it up, and they're like, dude, Bill's wedding was awesome. The food was like the best wedding food we've ever had.
Nice.
Because it wasn't a wedding caterer, man. It's like my buddy from who, like, more than qualified to do that, like, but like just sick chef that has catered a bunch of stuff and worked at a bunch of restaurants and came up with a cool menu, and yeah, killed it, dude. It was awesome.
I did have one last curiosity for Jake, if you'll indulge me. You mentioned gardening at the very beginning, like hypothetical, you have all the time in the world and you have all the resources in the world. Can you at least like imagine like you're walking into your backyard or your front of your house or whatever, and you're actually thinking like, okay, I got my dream set up here. Like, what's it? Is there anything that you don't have now that you would totally be farming, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, my ultimate like end goal is to like end up in a self-sufficient homestead.
Yo,
Like, or maybe not entirely self-sufficient. There's some things that I enjoy that I wouldn't be able to provide for myself, I think, but yeah, just like growing as much of my own food as I can, and I don't know, I like that shit. Yeah. We're currently in a rental here in Nashville, so I have like limited. I'm not gonna like build raised bed gardens in somebody else's backyard,
right.
but I have my landlords don't know it, but I have a little no dig garden I've created the last couple years, and yeah, I got a bunch of vegetables and herbs and all that stuff growing in it right now. And
But are you building this dream homestead? Is this Nashville or is this Iowa?
This dream homestead will be in Iowa, down the road.
How big? Like literally, like to Charlie's point, no money restrictions. You're flush as can be. Are you talking like 20 acres isolated? You want like 1,000 acres? Fucking, we have a fortress. Nobody's messing with us. My ecosystem is intact.
My new word that I am working on defining, that is my life motto, that I'm not very good at right now, but working towards, is the idea of the word enough. So
Where are you at now? What's your 5-second little enough pitch?
like for like my ultimate like end goal, like what I just said, like wind up self-sufficient homestead. Like, well, one, I currently don't have a job that supports. Like, I feel like all these like YouTube people on like these like homestead channels, they're like, they make it seem like that's all they do, but like it's like, the one partner's like a social media influencer and probably makes like 6 figures doing that, and then not having to leave, and then the other one is like a computer software programmer, coder or something, and it's like, well, like your farm's not like supporting your lifestyle, like you're making like all this money to support it. Like, my goal is to have enough money saved that I can support this, and then yeah, just like enough. Like, I don't want to like like create like a farm like that. I'm like, like I'm market garden type thing or like sell product. I just like want to have a huge garden that I work in every day and grow my own food and chill the fuck out. Other than that,
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. That's where I want to end, man.
So
That's been such a big
Yeah.
such a big theme for my life. It's just feeling enough and realizing like I like everything is enough already, man.
yeah. But like right now, I'm just kind of enough is a term that I will put into effect down the road because it's like right in order to have that down the road. Right now, it's like let's get as much as we can so that later,
Yeah.
all I got to do is just chill the fuck out.
Hell yeah. Well, man, dude, I really appreciate you taking the time to carve out. I know you're busy with all the happenings in the music world, trying to get this thing dialed in with Charlie in LA and me on the road, and you as busy as you've been. But thanks for carving out the time. We really appreciate it. This is just the process is the joy for us, and that's really the whole point of this. Is just to have interesting conversations with interesting people and just kind of see what happens. So, thanks for
Hell
coming
yeah.
on. We had a blast, and
Thanks so much, Jake.
Charlie,
Great to
any-
meet you, man.
Hell yeah, dude. Good to meet you too, Drew. Let's go get dinner.
yeah, Charlie, you're invited. You just got to bring your ass to Nashville.
I'm on it, dude. I'm gonna make it happen.
Later.
All right, guys. Thank you.